Mommy, this is Anita. She just finished her master's.
A master's? Very impressive.
Sorry. That was my mom. We talk every day.
Every day, I see.
With respect, Ma, I don't think that's fair to James.
Bold girl. None of them will do. I need a girl who listens, who doesn't argue, who I can guide. That one, quiet, humble, perfect. You're such a well-raised girl. I have a son I'd love for you to meet.
Thank you, Ma. That's very kind.
James, meet Anita.
Nice to meet you. Bernani Mina.
So your mum said you like quiet places.
She's not wrong. Do you?
I do, actually.
This one, I can work with.
At the wedding, people said Madame Sarah looked prouder than the groom's father. She had reason to be. She had not gained a daughter-in-law. She had recruited an asset. The first year of marriage, Madame Sarah was the model mother-in-law. She called Anita every other day, not to interrogate her, just to talk, just to bond. She brought soup on Sundays. She complimented Anita in front of James at every opportunity. Anita, who had grown up without much softness from her own family, mistook this attention for real affection, and gave her trust freely. That trust became the door Madame Sarah walked through. It started small. She asked how much James was earning, framing it as concern, as a mother wanting to know her son was providing well. Anita, seeing no harm in it, told her. From there, Madame Sarah began asking what the money was being spent on, then began suggesting where it should be spent instead, then began asking Anita to quietly redirect portions of it toward her own needs before James even saw his full salary. Anita, trained her whole life to respect elders without question, did as she was asked. She justified it to herself the way people in her position always do. She is his mother. It is only right. It is just this one time. Except it was never just one time. Over the years, Madame Sarah built an entire secondary income stream out of her son's marriage, using the very woman she had chosen for her pliability as the pipeline. For years, this worked exactly as designed. And then Anita started to grow up. Nobody stays the same person forever, not even the people we pick specifically because we think they will never change. As the years passed, Anita gained more experience of the world. She grew closer to a few women at her church who spoke plainly about boundaries and about the difference between honoring your elders and being used by them. Slowly, something in Anita began to shift. She started noticing what she had refused to notice before. Every time she and James tried to save money for something of their own, Madame Sarah had a new request. Every time Anita tried to make a decision in her own home, Madame Sarah had already spoken to James about it first, using information Anita herself had handed over. Anita began to pull back. She stopped answering every call on the first ring. She stopped sharing details about their finances. She started making decisions with James privately, without running them past his mother first. It was not dramatic. It was not an announcement. It was simply a woman quietly reclaiming her own home. Madame Sarah noticed immediately. Women who are used to being obeyed always notice the moment obedience stops. She did not confront Anita directly. That was never her style. Instead, she began a quiet campaign, dropping comments to James about how his wife had changed, how she was becoming proud, how marriage had made her forget where she came from. She spoke to James' sisters, to aunties, to anyone who would listen, painting Anita as a woman who had turned cold and disrespectful the moment she felt secure. But whispers alone were not enough for Madame Sarah. She wanted something undeniable, something that would not just make people suspicious of Anita, but make people despise her. So she turned to a spiritualist she had used once before, in a family land dispute years earlier. She did not go asking for guidance. She went asking for a weapon. She wanted her son's wife to want other men, to want them badly enough that she could no longer hide it, and she was willing to pay whatever the spiritualist asked to make it happen. What followed was quiet and invisible, the way these things always are until the damage is already done. Anita began to notice a restlessness in herself that she could not explain, an attraction toward men that had nothing to do with anything happening in her actual marriage. She fought it at first. She prayed about it, confused by feelings that did not match anything real in her life with James. But the pull did not fade, it grew, until one night it overpowered the version of herself that had built a decade of loyalty. She was unfaithful. Once discovered, that single act would be used to erase everything she had ever done right. James found out the way most husbands find out, through a message left open, through a friend who could not keep quiet. The pain was real, and it was raw, and in that pain he did what many wounded people do. He did not go quietly to his wife to understand what had happened. He went to his family. He told his sisters. He told his mother, who received the news with a performance of shock so convincing that no one, least of all James, could have guessed she was the architect of it. Word spread through the family and the church community faster than truth ever travels. Ada became the subject of ridicule in rooms she was not even in. Women who used to greet her warmly now looked away. James' mother, in front of everyone, was the loudest voice reminding people that she had always sensed something was not right about that girl. Anita, for her part, could not explain herself, because she did not understand herself. But something kept nagging at James, underneath the anger and the humiliation. He knew his wife. 10 years of marriage had shown him a woman of discipline, a woman who had never once given him reason to question her loyalty. The version of Anita being described by the family did not match the woman he had actually lived with. He voiced this confusion to a close friend, a man who had known him since secondary school. His friend listened carefully, then told him this did not sound like a woman falling out of love. It sounded like a woman fighting something she could not control. He suggested they visit a prophet he trusted, not out of superstition, but because his friend had seen situations like this before. The prophet did not need James to explain much before he began speaking. He described details about Anita's recent behavior that James had not shared with anyone. He described a restlessness placed on her, not born in her. And then he said the sentence that would break the entire family apart. He told James that the woman responsible was someone in his own bloodline, someone who called herself protective, someone who had wanted control over his marriage from the very beginning. James did not need the prophet to say a name. He already knew. He confronted his mother that same week. At first, Madame Sarah denied everything, wounded and offended that her own son could accuse her of such a thing. But James was no longer the trusting boy who accepted every explanation without question. He pressed her, calmly at first, then with the full weight of 10 years of unanswered questions. He reminded her of the years of financial demands funneled quietly through his wife. He reminded her of the campaign of whispers the moment Anita stopped obeying. Under that pressure, Madame Sarah finally broke. She confessed she had chosen Anita specifically because she seemed easy to control. She admitted to using Anita as a channel for money for years. She admitted that when Anita finally grew wise enough to pull away, she could not accept losing her power over her son's household, so she took the one action she believed would either bring Anita back under her thumb or destroy her completely. She said she only wanted to protect her place in her son's life. But meaning and consequence are not the same thing. James went to Anita that night, not with more accusations, but with the truth. For the first time since the affair was discovered, Anita was allowed to grieve what had actually happened to her, instead of defending herself against a version of events that was never true. The real threat had been sitting at the family table the entire time, wearing the mask of a caring mother. Here's what this story is really about. Some people do not want you to have a partner. They want a puppet with your partner's name on it. They will study you, choose the version of you that seems easiest to manage, and treat your gentleness not as a virtue to respect, but as a weakness to exploit. If someone in your life consistently rejects every strong, opinionated person who comes near you, and only approves of the quiet ones, ask yourself what they are really looking for. If someone gains access to your finances, your decisions, your peace, through someone else's trust, that is not closeness. That is infiltration. Anita's mistake was never her gentleness. Her mistake was trusting that gentleness would be respected instead of exploited. Growth is not disrespect. Boundaries are not pride. Write this down. The people who claim to know what is best for you sometimes only know what is best for them. Watch who gets uncomfortable the moment you start choosing for yourself.